up, stream? Alright, let's get comfy. Let's get comfy. Alright, so here we are with our boy Skarbrand here. Where we left off is kind of just continuing these, almost like the sketch layer before we move on to our hard lines. Kind of looking at some of our or our reference material here as well too. Just have some screenshots from in-game. Kind of helps us see. And let's see here. I think one that I really wanted to take care of was actually going to be, I feel like his face needs to be kind of extended a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and work on that today. I feel like it needs to be a little bit wider. So kind of just start there. And let me just check to make sure. Okay. Yes, yes. Speed 3. Plus into here. And then we will do this one here. So it's a little bit wider to me, it looks like. Hey, what's up, Nagani? What's up, Leland? Welcome, welcome to the Skarbrand, the Drawbrand stream. Okay. So let's do this. Just down a little bit more. Okay, dokie. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull this in. And there it is. If only it was that easy. Okay. So it just seems like his face is a little bit wider than what I have here. So I think I'm going to actually start tonight by just reworking his face. So go ahead and kind of just get that started. It's going good, Leland. It is going good, my friend. How are you doing? Part of me is thinking that I just kind of do this to take his face. Kind of just... There's one way we can do it. Kind of want to just like, oops. See there, it almost looks too human. Good to hear it, man. So what we'll do is we'll actually cut this, and then we'll go ahead and paste this again so it's its own layer. And then this way when I move it, I don't gotta be too concerned. Alright, so here this is. We can now grab it down there and kind of take a look at it a little bit more. So originally it's like this, but I want to make it a little bit more kind of longer. Just a more of a demon look if it doesn't look so human. I mean, this one doesn't really show it too much, but maybe we'll just kind of chill there. Okay, cool. So from here, what we can go ahead and do is kind of just get back on this sketch layer. Can zoom in a little bit more here. And we're really going to want to try to basically just finish these lines up today. Goes it, Nagani? How goes? Nagani's got that paper to write. She's deep in that homework game right now. Okay. I feel like with this, it goes well. Me and Oxy running a friend through a new dungeon on Destiny 2. Honestly, avoiding my final project 202. Yep, called it. Okay. So we can go ahead and kind of close out some of these that we don't need. And I think one thing I wanted to work on today was this back leg here a little bit more. Kind of just gonna get a zoom out and see just what's kind of standing out. I feel like this leg, something about this. Um, it's just something about this. We can kind of look in here and see what he's got. So he's got these leg plates. He does have this belt around. So let's see. These leg plates actually come up more so if we're looking as they're attached to the belt. This angle's kind of off right now, and that's part of the sketch layer. It's really just determining these angles. So let's see, we're on sketch 2. Kind of just draw this kind of quickly here. We can go ahead and delete this, because ultimately his armor's going to wrap up a little bit more, so it'll actually come up here a little bit. And I think what we might do at this point is actually start dropping this opacity down again. Kind of like a little rinse and repeat process that we can do just while we're drawing out these harder lines now. Let's see here. Yep, okay, cool. So here, layer 13, we can kind of adjust this, I think, a little bit. Oops. One thing now that we have this isolated too, we can kind of turn it a little bit more, which might help out. Even that's looking a little bit better there. Kind of keep it a little bit wide though. Kind of just tilt these around. That might be pretty good. How's it going with you, Leland? Yeah, I finally got to do my social dance test. Did you beat the game, bro? Did you win? Did you defeat the boss mob? So it's almost like, so this is gonna be a skull here. Makes sense. So we'll kind of start drawing this out a little bit. I'll kind of just drop this a little bit more. That's at 31. We'll drop this to 31. We can kind of get in there. I did it, but it was very hard. Sounds like an exam to me. We'll go ahead and actually create a new layer here, and we'll name this one, rename layer. Let's name this Armors. Armors. Okay, now we can kind of get into this a little bit more. And I think what we'll do, so if I'm looking at this, well, these straps might be correct. I think what we need to do is just draw this out a little bit more. So I can go ahead and grab this and pull this in. Then what I'll do is I'll actually just zoom into this a little bit more. Really just isolate this out. So looks like here's his belt. Then he's gonna have basically this part. So if we kind of just follow these lines, that's kind of the initial teeth. We've got some fangs. And with this, we'll kind of just sketch this pretty quickly, not to get too caught up. This kind of comes down like this. Okay, then this piece kind of comes up like so. And then this piece kind of comes down like this. This is going to still be kind of wrapped around though. It's kind of difficult to see, but this does kind of wrap around. It's got like a little horn here too on this skull. Just kind of put a placeholder there. Here we can then start just doing these little nose pieces. Just getting a general idea of where things are gonna go. It's kind of got these like really defined eyebrows. Kind of do this like so. Something like that. And this isn't supposed to look extremely realistic. Not at that level yet, but this can kind of just put us at a good spot here. This kind of comes up the nose like that. You might even find that we need to go a little bit higher with this line too. So we'll bring this in. I'm gonna move my keyboard over just a tad too. Well, I'm sure you did well. Thanks, Nagani. Yep. Okay. This can kind of come down here too. Then from here, again, just making some light lines. We can always kind of redo these later, but this will help us kind of get set up in his armor. Okay, so now this can kind of come down like so. So the thing is, I feel like with how his leg is, you just need to be very careful of how this armor would appear if his leg's kind of sticking out a little bit more. So sometimes we don't want to get too zoomed in. So kind of just keep it out. A little bit more like so. It's gonna kind of come down. And this kind of comes to a point right here. It looks like this part of the armor actually kind of rounds out. A little bit like that. And these lines don't really need to be the cleanest. And one thing I'm kind of noticing is, even with this line here, it looks a little off. So we will go ahead and just erase this. And because we're kind of moving past the sketch layer now, getting into like, just call it like this, the secondary sketch layer, we'll want to be a little bit more deliberate with these lines and kind of get, you know, less sketching going on. So this will probably come out more so like an angle like this to follow this line. And then from here, we can kind of pull this in a little bit more. And then this will kind of loop around. This will be up here. And you can see as I'm adjusting how things will just adjust out of symmetry anyway. Okay, here what we can do is kind of just start with some of these initial designs. Don't want to get caught up too much on this for now, but just some initial lines here. we could spend all night drawing these lines out. But we just kind of want to make sure that we're getting the major points. Because we'll go in afterward when we do our hard lines to really make sure that these are nice and clean. Something like that, though. Okay. And here, this being up like so, go ahead and just make it so that this, yeah, I think one thing is that this leg was kind of looking like it was kind of popping out a little bit too much. So what we'll want to do is just make it so that his chainmail in this section kind of comes out a little bit more, covers it. And kind of just have his leg come out a little bit more here. This can then be the wrapping here. And then this can kind of come up. Like something like so. Okay, then this can be... So where we have this one. Just kind of putting some placeholders here. All right, so with that, we can then kind of move into, let's say, his knee. Finish up the rest of his quad here. Kind of has some definition here. Really shows like where this muscle group's at. Okay, and then I think we can kind of get into his boots a little bit more. So let's take a look at these things. So he's kind of got he's got some armor on him for sure. So what we'll do is see, it kind of looks like there's a little lip like so. And this kind of comes down. This almost looks like it's, so looking at this one too, it's got his initial like, it's interesting because even this like art from the game is a little bit different than like the art in the game. So with that, we'll just kind of work around it. Let's see here, this kind of looks like it. And let's see, I actually want to see something here. Oops. So, see, I accidentally was drawing on the wrong layer. So instead of the armor layer I was supposed to be on, I was drawing on layer 11. So whenever I hide this now, it's kind of a bad beat. We'll just have to really rework that. Layer management is its own thing. But here I want to zoom out and I actually want to see. Just gonna get back into the sketch layer real quick, and I just want to see if I feel like he's kind of got with his legs here. If we check this out, they kind of curve, you know. So the knee comes out, but then it kind of like comes back and then forward again. It's almost like a goat or like a fawn or something, right? So I'm just wondering if we need to kind of address that, because right now this looks like a little bit too. Looks like I might need to come back a little bit further with this. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. Making sure we're on our sketch layer. And so, I mean, it's almost like it goes like back like this and then around. Then the kind of the actual boot starts here. So let's move into layer 13, and actually we'll do the armors layer. I'm gonna do this a little bit more. So let's see here. Almost like, so currently this is how it was, but I think we're gonna do something where this comes up like this. This is this shoe here. This kind of comes down, and then I think it almost like folds back in. And this can kind of be, this is fine here, this little hoof part. But I think it's really just getting this to be a little bit more, kind of like doubles back on itself a little bit. Just look a little bit more like a goat, a fawn, and then it kind of comes down like that. He's a demon, you know? So this might need a little bit of massage in here. But I think this kind of really gives it the effect that this guy's like not from this world. But before we kind of get too caught up in this part of him, we'll just go ahead and move on to another area, which we can then continue on with some of his armor here. And if we look, I think I might have a good picture of his armor. Let's see here. Looking a little dark on my end, actually, for some of these. So let's keep this. We will then hide this. And we will hide. Actually, what can we see here? Let me actually check my desktop. What's up, everybody? Just tuning in. Welcome to the stream. Tonight, we are not playing the campaign. We are doing a little drawing with our Skarbrand art. I do have some better pictures of his armor, which I'll pull in here now. These are just reference shots from the game that we can just use to be a little bit more helpful to us. Cool. So from here, what I'll do is I can then pull this in a little bit more. This will probably be a good one. Okay. This is fine here. This guy we can hide. This one, we'll actually need to select this and just hit cut, hit paste to its own layer. Okay, now here, oops. Go ahead and just move this like so. Kind of then just use this as, see, this is actually a little bit better of a look for his legs sticking out, right? Like this angle here. So we're kind of onto it a little bit. We might need to curve this out a little bit more. Just this foreshortening's a little difficult, but we're gonna keep rocking. Okay. Oh, we'll go ahead and apply. Oops. We'll go ahead and apply this. That's good. We'll move this up to the top a little bit. All right, now we're gonna want to make sure that we're on our armor layer here. Switch back to our sketched tool. Okay. So these aren't connected. So this will be kind of coming up from here. Then it does. Let's see if we can actually zoom in a little bit more on this bad boy. So it's got kind of a central plate here. This is like a belt. So that's good to see. So we'll kind of move this over here like so. Then we'll just know that outside of his chest armor up here, um, that he does have a little bit of that midriff showing. Skarbrand, you dog. It's got like a little like horn sticking out here too. That's interesting. So a lot of things to incorporate. This is actually a really good look for this hand here. We wanted to do with that other axe. So that'll be a good reference. All right, enough talk. Let's draw. Okay. So here what we'll do is this will be where his belt starts. Then he's got this little like clasp that comes up like this first. This kind of opens up into this area. He's got another little part of his belt that shoots out like here. So right now I'm kind of following around this line. And this is really kind of just to get that initial outline too. Not going to be too committed to anything at this point. But we just want to get this armor kind of set up nicely. Here, this will kind of be an area distinction. We got his goatee coming through. So for right now, we'll just kind of draw the armor as is, because we can always add that goatee after the fact. And one thing we'll want to be mindful of too is just always zooming out and making sure that we're not losing our kind of our main reference line. So we actually might just draw like this, with say this being like the primary line. Here, this can then get moved, and see I accidentally forgot to switch back to this armor layer. And you really just want to keep, you know, it's like drawing's one thing, but having these layers is like a whole nother story and can really just bite you in the butt if you don't pay attention to it. So I'm be on this armor's layer. With that, we'll go ahead and kind of just start sketching this out here. Here's kind of the belt. Belt will come down like so. He's got, it's kind of then rounds out a little bit more. Kind of just using this, you know, his center line to make sure I'm kind of doing this right. And then here, kind of flattens out. It's not really too round, but this flattens out. This will be that little part here. This will kind of come like so into this piece. And then this is where that belt will start, and it will go up like so and kind of come up around like this. So this is where his hip's going to be. And it's got kind of these like lines on the belt too to really distinguish it. Cool. So from here, what we'll do is if we look, it kind of has like a little bend in it before it kind of flattens out. So I want to make sure that we incorporate that. So for here, let's see, it looks like it kind of, this will be kind of the center. So this is where it kind of peaks there. This is where that will naturally go. And then this kind of then flattens out. So this will be kind of that part. From here, this comes up and then in. And so then this will then come up and in like so. Okay. And if we look at here, this has kind of got some corn designs on it. It's kind of got this like, so we won't get too much into that. We'll save that for another sketch layer a little bit later. But you know, we can kind of start drawing out. It's got like this arrow here. Just do these lines here. There are 4 people watching and only 2 likes. Come on, we could do better. Yo, Leela in ultimate hype, man, dude. Ultimate hype, man. He keeps it. He keeps, you know, he's always watching. The cool thing about this too is, you know, with the amount of detail that's going to be into this, is that while it might look funky on its own, when it all comes, it usually all comes together in the end. But for now, let's kind of just make sure that we're, and also one thing we can do is we can just have his goatee cover up a bunch of this as well too. But it looks like he kind of has just these designs here. This is kind of like starred out a little bit. Then this is going to then be probably another clasp like this. Then this will then be, what we want to do is be careful with these lines here, make it so that they're consistent with his belt. And if these ones are coming in, these ones should go the opposite way. Okay, here we'll kind of just, this right now I'm kind of just winging it. But we'll get in and fix this afterward. And ultimately, a lot of this might be covered by his goatee as well, but at least this way we have his initial armor set up. Okay. It's got some little details here, like some little ignits. Okay. See, so I actually almost feel like this is a really good representation of like where his leg's at. With what I was trying to do, you can kind of see where we're at. So one thing I might do is actually then get on this, kind of just jot this down a little bit more here. Kind of wrap this around. This will come down like so. And at this point, it's supposed to look kind of chaotic as we build this out. This can kind of come down at another angle here. This is just another good look for completing this. We can almost see too how just the angle of this really makes a difference. So that just might be something we'll need to work on here a little bit later. But I think this is fine for now. Okay. So with this, one thing we know is that these then turn into like additional plates. And they do kind of fold underneath, so I want to make sure that we just accompany for that or accommodate that. So the plates do come up from underneath, and then we'll do one more here. Kind of just make sure that we're following this line down this way. Kind of just making sure that they're following the natural flow of his armor here. Okay. And again, we'll just want to zoom out. Sometimes we get so close to the project that we kind of lose track of everything else. But this is looking a little bit better here. From here we can kind of just draw some additional details that we'll figure out a little bit later on. Okay, so let's go ahead and now get into, what's the next area? Yeah, let's see. This looks a little dark on my screen. Yeah, it is a little dark. But what we can do is we can kind of just hide this one. And I mean, we have an idea of what this looks like, so I'll go back to the armors layer. This will then just be, and actually what we'll want to do here is we'll kind of just want to zoom in. Honestly, chainmail is like some of the most fun things to draw for me. Really just like how it looks when it comes out. It's one of those examples of up close when you're looking at it, it's like, oh man, kind of messy, but then when you zoom out, it kind of all comes together. And I'm trying to think if at this time I want to put just a little bit more, I don't know, maybe a little bit more like, I don't know if I want to put some more like movement to this a little bit, like if I want to have this curve down a little, or just kind of keep this straight. I think actually looking at this now, kind of have this like curve out. Kind of just make these squigglies for now. We'll clean this up during the ink layer, but I think for that, what the bottom of this thing look like? Oh, it's a skull, that's right. So here, so this will then be a skull. And if we look, I think I got a good shot of it in one of these. Let's see here. Yeah, this is fine here. Cut, edit, paste. Okay, from here we'll move this over on this way. Alright, now it's basically going to be like kind of a little darker skull here, but this is going to then be, kind of comes out to a point like this. So we want to get back on the right layer, which is armors. And then we'll kind of just do this here. Just kind of quick sketch this around. It's going to come down like that. Going to come down like so. Kind of make the bridge of the nose here. And this is just something, again, we'll just kind of get some rough orientation down before we'll jump into the hard lines a little bit later. You got this, man. He's looking great. Thanks, Leland. Usually this is just like the hardest part to kind of just work through because it just looks like chaos, but I guess that makes sense for Skarbrand. But it all comes together at the end, hopefully. Something like that. And we'll just kind of leave that for now. We don't need to get too much into this, at this point at least. Okay, let's go back and hide this. Then let's see what we can do about this leg. I think what we need to do is, if this is coming out like this, it wraps around. Maybe we actually just kind of move on and work through on this leg real quick. So here what we can do is get back onto this reference. Just gonna be here. This is pretty nice here too. I really like in the chainmail how there's like missing links too. So Skarbrand. Okay, so here, this is kind of flip-flopped a little bit. So like his back, like, you see how his leg kind of like doubles back though? I guess for this one it doesn't look nearly as bad, but we'll figure that out later. Okay, for this though, get on the armor layer, kind of just start sketching this out. So we'll know that we'll have a kind of a brim like this. We know that this is going to be a skull. So we can kind of bring this down like so. I believe this will probably wrap around too like that other plate does. And then it will kind of come to a point here. We're going to want to make sure that this point comes up right on this side because we're not looking at it straight on. It's going to be kind of on the side a little bit. So this is what makes it really come to life, is having these angles kind of down. It's a more difficult thing to do, but this really comes together. Okay, and this can kind of come up like so, and then it does kind of branch out a little bit into here. Let's see here. A little difficult to see right now. So let's get on this layer, pull this guy over here. See if I have any other picks. Yeah, this is actually a good pick here. Of like, and I mean this is actually like the angle we're gonna be going for anyway. Wish I had a bigger. Yeah, this is pretty much the exact angle. Get back on our armors. Okay, so we can see now. This is good here. We'll probably use this little skull point. This guy's got a horn too on his skull. Kind of see actually a little skull forming here anyway. This will then be where the teeth are for the skull. And then this can then be how it kind of pulls up into this jaw part area and comes down. And this will kind of want to make it a little bit defined here before we bring out this plate part of it. And then here what we can do is, we know that there's kind of a very distinctive, you know, these eyebrow parts. So we'll kind of make sure that that's covered. And we can kind of just do something like that. And with this, we're going to want this other eye to kind of be like on this side. So that might be what we do here. Something like that. From here, we'll go ahead and we can kind of bring his leg out. We'll want to make sure that we're kind of covering it a little bit with this part so it doesn't look like this is a complete line. So we'll probably want this to kind of come out even more so like so. Start that here. His knee. So this is going to kind of be off of his. This kind of curves first and then comes down again. So we'll make this a little bit longer. Just kind of have that like so. Kind of curves first and then comes down. Okay. And from here we can kind of even just do these little like lines that we have here for later. We'll get into that. Okay. Kind of make his knee here. And then here what we can do is we can then go ahead and make the straps for where this all connects. This can then be up in here. So you can see too, when you start to like have the symmetry of including these other elements, like these straps, for example, it really helps your eyes kind of balance out and see where reference is. So as I kind of draw these in now, you know, my eye is getting caught up over here, and you can kind of just see how these two lines really help complement the drawing for now. So this is good. Okay, here, this is fine like so. This kind of comes down. Okay, so at this point, we're pretty much wrapped on this. I think one thing I like to do is actually kind of start drawing his other arm. And I mean, this is, I didn't mean to do this, but this is actually something that's a really good reference. So what we'll do is we'll kind of just pull this over. And I mean, ultimately, you know, how this is going to look is, you know, probably something like, you know, where the axe is he's going to be kind of holding his axe out like that. This will be kind of sweet because we can then kind of see all this cool detail of the axe. As far as it goes right now, we're kind of just having it point down, but I think this will look a little bit cooler with more detail. So let's go ahead and kind of just set that up like so. And from here, I'm going to make sure we're dropping back on our armor layer. And we can go ahead and start building this out. So we'll definitely, when we move to coloring, this will kind of come out a little bit better because we'll be able to have like the red distinction. But for right now, this is going to be a little interesting. So this is kind of where his top bracer is. And he's kind of got his armor coming out. Kind of where his arm will then be. Okay, and then from here, he'll have some of these straps too, which we'll go into what we'll be keeping this part of the armor on. For here, what we can do is we'll just kind of block this out to show that armor distinction. Come down. kind of just draw his, got those demon hands here. And then his fist is going to be closed here. And one thing I want to make sure to do is at this point, you can kind of see where he's kind of grasping this a little bit more. Kind of just do some brief lines here. One thing that's kind of catching me up is I have this line. That's just making it seem like his axe is going to go this way, but we're actually going to start drawing it out this way. So the good thing about digital is that we can kind of draw this as we see it, and then we can always just change it back too. You can kind of just like select it and then move it if necessary. So I think one thing I might do here is kind of just start out with just some general lines. So I mean, it's going to come up like so. Here, then this is going to be a little break. It's going to then come up like so. This kind of then comes up, kind of curves like that. Got a little notch there where it comes through. This then comes up like so. Get into this a little bit more. Okay. This will be a little thick up there. Something like that. Here. Then this will have this will come up like so. Looks like it's got another little notch before it kind of turns into this blade. With that axe, it kind of goes like this. You'll get the axe. And kind of just is flat like so. Then this kind of curves around into like these jaws a little bit. This kind of comes down like that, then up this angle here. Oh, it actually does look like it's almost like a mouth opening. That's kind of neat. One thing we'll definitely want to not lose track of, though, is this blade. You see, I'm not really giving a lot of room for this actual blade to come up. So we want to make sure that we have enough there to come up. And then as soon as it does, it's going to then come out like this. And then this will kind of be that line there. So what I was mentioning before is what we can do now is we can take this lasso tool. And I mean, I don't really want to start from scratch. So what I can do is I'll just take this that I drew. And then I can kind of just move this out a little bit more here. Something like that. Even just out a little bit more will be good. And actually, if we look at this thing, this axe, it kind of comes out like past his hand. So what we might actually think about our line of what we do is starting from here is kind of just drawing it back this way. So we'll come up. This will be a quick line in here. I'm really just gonna, you know what? We're just gonna ignore this for now. We'll get this drawn out. Okay. So it comes up. It really immediately comes out. Kind of tall there. This then wraps around, down. This might take a little bit of time here. Okay. But once this is done, we'll be good. Okay, so let's do this. This down like so. Drops. It kind of comes down even more. Out. Then up and around this way. So now this, if we kind of just draw a straight line here, will then kind of come out like this. This ain't no ordinary axe, folks. Just do this for now. So let's see. Okay, so we can kind of go ahead and just make this line more distinctive here. I think what we might actually have to do is drop this down a little bit. So I might take this tool, copy this here, and then just drop this down a little bit more. Something like that. You'll get the axe armors. Here, what we can do is kind of just start drawing some of these lines here. Yep. Really rough. We'll have to kind of zoom in a little bit and see what that is. It looks pretty funky, but that should be fun. Here, we know that there's going to be these kind of like two areas here. Okay. And now if we go ahead and zoom out, yeah, I think this is good for like our initial, orientation. So what we can do is go back to this sketch layer, and just to not confuse our eye, we'll just go ahead and erase this bad boy here. We got other plans. This will kind of just complete this here, just keep this perspective. Not gonna get caught up on his leg too much tonight, because that's gonna be a battle for another time. Just PvP this leg. But one thing we can maybe start doing is working on. I almost have to go get a better picture of his. Get a little bit better picture of his boots too. Some of these ones that I have just aren't really cutting it. I mean, this one's all right. Let's see here. So he's got hooves. We know that much. He's hooved. He's behooved. So let's maybe do something like this. Get on our armor layer. Okay, so this is gonna basically come up like so. Looks like this is just one kind of panel here. So it looks like there's three parts. This top panel, then a bottom panel, and then it's actually his hoof with some hair. I really like this detail too. I didn't realize that was there, but that's kind of neat. Okay, so let's do this starting panel. Okay, and then this can kind of come down like so. And it'll be really kind of cool to draw these little rivets and stuff later on when we get to that point. Here, though, what we'll do is we'll kind of just draw this like so. He's got some lines in here. He's got also just like it's kind of distinguished by this little gold plating this will all really come to light when we move into the coloring layer. But here, let's go ahead and just kind of draw out some of his fur, which I thought was pretty cool. And then he's got these hoofs that kind of come out like this, and then up, then down, and then something like so. And this kind of actually loops around and gives him a little bit more of this hoof look here. Something like that. thing we'll just like to do is even just little details like this where you see a little bit of this fur coming out. Really helps kind of bring them to life a little bit more. So this will be his hoof. We'll probably have to finagle this a little bit more as far as the angle goes, but I think this is good. And we do have about 5 more minutes in this drawing stream. So we'll just kind of use this time to probably just work on his other foot. As much as I'm trying to avoid it, it's got to get done. So this one's kind of funky though. So maybe if we do like the hoof here, we'll start off with that. So let's just kind of start off there. This kind of has this hoof coming out like so, kind of wraps around and comes back in. Here it's going to have some of that hair, that fur. Kind of just build this out real quick. Okay, now this will then be where we have this first section of plate. This will have the, we're kind of just freestyling now because you know, we just did the last shoe, so we have somewhat of an idea of what's going on here. Okay, now this is where it starts to get a little bit funky. I think what I need to do first is just kind of get in here, start erasing some of these sketch layers, because they are not going to help me do this very well. Yeah, this will be funky. Okay, go back to the armor layer. I think this is the armor layer. Kind of zoom out and see how this looks like. Yeah, I mean, it's looking a little bit more demon-esque, you know? Looking a little bit more demon-esque. I think this is actually looking pretty decent now. Okay, so here, so, I mean, if we kind of brought this around, I gotta try to wrap my mind around how this would look from here. Kind of maybe come out. This will be a little block right here. This will be the same little rivet. So similar to that symmetry. If we have these 2 dots here and these 2 dots here, it'll kind of just help the eyes like align to what they're looking at. This kind of comes out like so. So here we can get into our armor layer, take the eraser, and then kind of just start taking this out. See, I think we accidentally drew on a wrong layer because I'm not able to erase this right now. So now I got to go back and backtrack and see where that is at. Oh, right here, layer 9. Okay, so actually it looks like layer 9 we could delete entirely. From here we'll go back to our armor layer. And we will just kind of make sure that, you know, this was kind of come up around there. Something like that, you know? All right. So I think this is going to be a good place to stop for the night. Um, Definitely a lot of progress. The hooves look great, man. Thanks, Leland. Yeah, kind of looking better now. With the armor included in here as well too. Got a little bit of this cleaning up to do. Let's see here. But overall, I think we've made some pretty good progress. So we'll go ahead and kind of call it for tonight. Thanks for joining, and stay tuned for next Tuesday. It's Tuesday, huh? Yeah. Next Tuesday, we'll be back doing the same thing. I'll go ahead and put this on my YouTube channel to schedule it out. And then, yeah, hope to see everybody there. We're making some good progress here. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.